Have yourself a very witchy vlogmas day 10. I've lost my song confidence. Have yourself a very witchy vlogmas. Hello. Oh, again, the red clashing with the I look not myself, but I need my Mr. Rogers sweater. But let me just say, in this day that we're talking about pop culture and movies and TV, that I am wearing my awesome women directors t-shirt under my Mr. Rogers sweater. Hello, everybody. Hi. Yay. Janine, have you been here every day? I feel like you have. And Alina, and maybe even Mary, too. Hi, Wisps and Whimsy. Amber's here. Messy Magic. Good morning. Sarah Lejon. How do I say your name? Palmer. Please correct me so I don't make a dork of myself. Oh, this is so cool. Energia Femenina. Woohoo. I love that. Erin. Fiberazi. Kat. Hi, this is so cool. Oh my God. Kathy, this show is for you. So I had a death-centric weekend. I wasn't sure if I wanted to lead with the Queen or death and witches in pop culture this week, but we're going to lead with witches and Satan and death in pop culture because death visited me this weekend and I have a story to tell. Kathy knows the story, kind of. You actually don't know the story, Kathy, so I'm going to tell it here. Hi, Diana. Okay, so I finished this book, Needful Things. Look at this ginormous book. Let's see how many pages this sucker is. I don't know what is up with Stephen King's brain, but holy crap. Okay, so it's almost 800 pages long. It's so big. And there's a demon in this book. And I don't want to give spoilers away, but there is some kind of demonic limbo situation going on in this book as well, and tons of death. Needful Things is the third Stephen King book I read this year, my third Stephen King book ever. I got into Stephen King this year, and I think just people die in his books, all his books. But I want to give a massive spoiler if you all are interested in reading this. I had a hard time finishing it because I felt bad for the characters. I felt really sorry for them, and characters I really cared about ended up dying. And a major trigger alert that is a spoiler at the same time is there is a child that commits suicide in this book. And that was when I was like, I don't know, Stephen. I don't know if I can finish this book. I'm glad I hung with it. I'm glad I circled back to it. But I did stop it a couple different times because I was like, this is horrible. I was looking for like fun horror, but he's really interested in like psychological horror that is very much based in the realities of human behavior. And then he just like cranks it up. And then, you know, he throws some supernatural components in there. But dude, that guy, he's scary in a different way that I thought that he was scary. So there's that. I finished that this weekend, and then I finally finished The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I wanted to do before the Christmas episode comes out. I forget what the Christmas episode is, but they have a special episode coming out. So I'm like, I guess I better finish it. But that too was like, again, with this whole video is going to be filled with spoilers. I'll do my best not to give too many. But cannibalism, really, witches eating each other, I don't know, and the gore of it. Like, gore is something, I can handle it better in a book than I can on the screen, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see blood and guts and gore, and Sabrina is an amazing show. I love it. I recommend checking it out, but that's just a thing where it's like, all right, I'm going to go watch something else for a minute here because witches eating each other, that's so friggin' weird. So let me tell you my funny story too. Pet Cemetery is the worst. I was so scared, scarred by that one. Yes. So maybe I won't be reading that one, Mary. Thanks for the heads up. I don't want to feel sorry for people. That haunts me. It's interesting. Like, just pure horror, you know, is often, I mean, it's like that, those jump scares are scary in the moment, but I don't like feeling sorry for somebody because that literally will hang with me and haunt me and follow me around, even if it's a pretend somebody. So let's talk about how death also visited me yesterday. So the day before yesterday, my cats, if you don't know, we have a limbo station in our house because I don't want the 4 cats in our house all day. I'm allergic to my own cats, so I don't want them like kicking up dander or peeing on the carpet, which now 2 of them are starting to do with some regularity. It's very hard to get out. And so they have a laundry room. They have their own apartment. It's a big room. It has a litter box. It's got 2 shelves by a window that they can sit in. And I leave that door open. So they have huge backyard to play in. And then they have a nice warm room with a couple different cozy beds they can sit in. So they have this apartment. The thing about that is the possums love the apartment too. And we've had moments of possums coming into our house. Like I'll just go into the kitchen and I'm like, there's a possum in my kitchen. Okay. But I've always been able to shoo them out and it's fine. And I actually really love possums and think they're very adorable. People always, when you say that, they say they're vicious, you know. They're really not. They're very like slow, chill, just leave me alone and I'll mind my own business kind of dudes. But of course they have like razor sharp teeth and they will cut you if you mess with them or you scare them. So I have a healthy respect of possums. But so Saturday night, all the cats were in the house, but the laundry room door was shut as we were making the transition. And they all the cats go to the laundry room because they know that's where the food is. And before I opened the door, I heard the signature chomp, 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 chomp that lets me know there's a possum in there eating cat food. So I like shooed the cats away and squeezed in. They're, you know, cats, they're like really aggressive. They'll like try to jump through the hole if you open the door, even a crack. So I squeezed through. And yes, there was like a teenage possum, a young teenage possum, not like a teeny tiny baby, but not like a big guy either, chomping away on their food. And so I tried to shoo him out and he ran behind the washer and dryer. And I was like, awesome, here we go. So there's a lot of banging. I was like banging on the metal between the washer and the dryer, like dum, 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 trying to make a lot of noise to scare this guy. Usually works. And they go running. And then I was turning the washer and dryer on and slamming the doors and trying to get him out. And this one was very hard to get out. And I finally saw him, like, he peeked around and I saw his little face and I was like, oh, he's so cute. He had like a big pink nose and really, he hadn't, you know, possums get really splotchy and funky looking the older they get. But see, he still had all his nice fur and he was so cute. So I ran to get my camera because I wanted to show you all. I was going to show you this possum because I thought he was adorable. And when I came back, I had the flash on, the possum was gone. And I was like, of course he is now. I like spent all this time trying to get rid of him. And then I decided to film him and then he's gone. So I let the cats in and we go to bed for the night. In the morning, when I wait to let the cats out, the laundry room was like, it was like Animal House party, like things everywhere, fur everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, did that possum get locked in here with the cats? Holy crap, 4 cats, 1 possum. It can't be good. The cats all seemed totally fine. Nobody had scratches on them or anything. So I opened the door so hopefully the possum could get out if he was still in there. And I searched the place and I couldn't find him. And then I had to go pick up my son in the afternoon. And I went in there and I always clean the laundry room if I'm going out to my car because it's on the way. So I went to clean up the laundry room and change the water and everything. And I saw fur. I was like, oh no. I saw fur like mushed up against this dresser that's in there behind a whole bunch of boxes. And then I saw a tail like curled up. And I tried to like, you know, move things, like just bump it to see if it would move, and it didn't. It just laid there like it was dead. And I figured, yeah, it's probably pretty dead. But somebody, our 2 white cats are vicious. They will kill anything that moves. So I kept trying to like poke it a little bit to see if it would move, and it didn't, and it just laid there. And two things. I had to go get my son, and I didn't want to be late. And that was like a 2-hour drive. And also I really didn't want to move a dead body. I was so freaked out. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I quickly Googled, what do you do when you have a dead possum in your house? And Google said, let it lay there for 4 hours to make sure it's really dead. And then put on some gloves and pick it up. And I know to the core of my soul, I cannot do this. I know I cannot pick up a dead body. Even with gloves, I just knew I couldn't do it. So I called my friend Kathy, who lives in the woods. And I was like, hello, my wilderness witch, you have to help me, please. There's a dead body in my house. What do I do? So Kathy and I don't know, Kathy, you said you're going to help me, but I don't know how helpful you were. We commiserated on the phone about what we should do. And she did recommend lighting a candle for the possum to help myself and my son and possibly the possum all deal with this transition that the possum had just gone through. And I was so skeeved out and so hyped up about having to move the dead body that I said to her, like, I need to switch my focus from me to the possum and think about the possum and respecting this cute little dude's life that has been cut short and giving it a respectful burial, right? And you're also supposed to put the possum in a bag and tie the bag so it doesn't stink and so it doesn't draw animals and things like that. So another thing actually that was kind of helpful, Kathy, that made me feel so understood is I was saying, I think what I'm going to do, I can't pick the possum up. I'm going to get a shovel. And she said, yeah, but anything that you can feel the weight of it is going to be disturbing. And I was like, I feel so understood. I don't want to look in its eyes. Something about that is really scary and creepy to me. The nobody's home look on a dead animal. And also it's the weight of feeling the animal, like in the plastic bag, in your hands, in the shovel, that is just, whew, I don't know. I can't explain it. The terror of it, I don't know what that's about. It's very hard to articulate. So I got my son on the way home. Of course, I have to tell my dad all of this because I think my dad has answers to everything, and he had no answers for us, but he talked to Tanner. He's like, you have to help your mom and you have to be a team player. And he's like getting Tanner all psyched up. So Tanner's ready to help with the possum, and we get home, we check, he's dead. He's definitely dead. He's still there. And so I said, Tanner, go get me the shovel. And I put these big baggy blue rubber gloves that I have on and gave Tanner a black trash bag. And so I have Tanner standing like with the black trash bag, like holding it open, and I have the shovel, and I start moving the boxes, and I notice the tail is not curled in the same way. The tail is straight now. And I'm like, that's weird. Did a cat come and move the possum? And we move more boxes, and it like flinches, and both Tanner and I like, ah! Like right away, it flinches. So I'm trying to like poke the possum with the shovel and make it move and make it move. And we're both dying. We're like freaking out. The thing won't move, but it does keep like, it's clearly not dead. So I think now we have an injured possum who's dying in our laundry room, and I don't know what to do. And I have this neighbor who lives in the back who does not speak great English, but every night, him and his wife, he goes around collecting cans to recycle and to make a little bit of extra money. And every night they're on their back patio crushing cans. And I hear the can crushing, and I'm like, Ramon! So I go running over with the rubber gloves and the shovel to yell at my neighbors who do not speak great English. Help me, please. Can you help me? There's a possum and I don't know what to do. So he comes over, and I need to make this, we're supposed to be talking about pop culture, holy smokes, and the time is flying. All right, let me wrap this up. It gets better. So basically, Ramon is a very aggressive possum hunter. He grabs a brand new mop that I have never, ever used, and he starts like going after the possum, and he's trying to like throw the boxes out of the way, and I have like a stack of tools and boxes and supplies and stuff on this dresser and then on an upper shelf, and the whole thing comes crashing down. And the possum runs again, like it starts running, and it runs behind the washer and dryer again. And Ramon just takes this little nightstand thing that's in there and throws it back. And that is when I realized that the possum is spraying the most demonic, sulfuric, horrifying poop I've ever smelled in my life. Diarrhea all over everything, everywhere he goes. And Ramon pushes this toolbox and it spreads the diarrhea across the room. And it's splashing on the walls and on the doors. And Ramon is so focused on getting the possum. He's like going after it with the mop, trying to like dig behind the washer and dryer to get the possum out. And he starts slipping around in the diarrhea and spreading it everywhere. So I am in this weird state of hilarity of like laughing and screaming. And Tanner's like, oh my God, worrying. And Ramon is just not even worried at all about ripping up the laundry room and slipping in shit. Literally, we're all three gagging. We kept like, because the smell was so horrifying. So let me make a long story short. The damn thing rose from the dead, possum style. They play dead. That's what possums are famous for. And then we all watched the thing walk up a tree, up to another tree, like it was no thing. And Ramon is so worked up, he's yelling at it like, don't come back, don't come back. And then he left. And my whole laundry room, which is a sizable laundry room, is just torn apart, and there is shit literally everywhere. So I cleaned it up. I wrote Ramon a check, which he did not want to accept, but I made him accept it. And I wrote possum poop in the section that you write what the check is for. And I told him it was a neighbor tax because I had no idea it was going to come to all that. So, okay, 53 Shades says, I was so waiting for the part of the story where it turns out not to be dead. So yeah, I did not have a dead body in my house, but I thought I did, and I did not handle it well. Neither did my neighbor, neither did my kid. And it was really fun cleaning all that up. Let me tell you, I don't know, maybe I cursed myself by doing an episode here talking about poop happens. It really, really happened. So what does that have to do with witches and Satan and death in pop culture? I don't know. But I had to tell you that story. It had to happen. A dead body would have been easier. It would have been so much easier. The Melissa, your stories are always like a warm hug. Well, if that feels like a warm hug, that is pretty amazing, because that's a pretty wild shitty story. It's a shitty story. So, who here has been watching the chilling or has finished watching the chilling adventures of Sabrina? Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Done gothic style, I guess. And what do you all think about it? I'm sorry if I missed your comments up above about this, but I will tell you what I think. No, I don't even know if I can. There's so much to say about it. It's gorgeous. It's ideal to me. I love the whole look of it. And I can see I've eaten up so much time with my possum story. I won't get into all of that. But some things were a little bit for me, including like cannibalism. I think the whole thing is done in a very ironic way with a wink and a smile that I do not find offensive as a witch. They clearly are not trying to represent or misrepresent what witchcraft is today. They're definitely trying to tell a good story. And I know it's based on the comic books, which I have not read. I love the comic book opening, though. I think that's really cool. I don't think the intention is to vilify witches. I think the intention is just to tell a great story. But I will say it wasn't enough to ruin the show for me at all. But it is sort of annoying. It's like, here we go again. Witches are devil worshippers. They worship Satan. They eat each other. They worship the Dark Lord. It's a very strange representation of witchcraft because it's basically Christianity, like very like Catholic kind of Christianity, this witchcraft, turned on its head, and it's mixed up with like, I think Luciferianism and Satanism kind of, and a lot of different things. There's not a lot of what I would call modern day witchcraft in it, or Wicca. The main representation of Wicca is a women's empowerment group that some high school girls start using that like as an acronym, but I don't see a lot of Wicca in what they're doing. Alina, the cannibalism episode is based on an old story and film called The Lottery. I was in The Lottery. I was in that play, and I was the one that got lottered. I was in that play. I had my death scene in a spotlight, and then the spotlight went out, and I was dead. So I actually know that play. Right. I don't think that's their intention, but their portrayal has implications. That's what I mean. I think it's like, some of us, I'm one of these people, I think, we want to normalize and represent what being a witch is all about as a form of personal empowerment. And a lot of us have these Christian families and co-workers and bosses and neighbors that would freak out if they heard us calling ourselves witches, or if there was a rumor that you're a witch. It's like, you're not going to get burned at the stake, but also you could be ostracized from certain social circles, gossiped about, or just laughed at, you know, and we don't want that, some of us. and it's like, great. Like, so this is going to be this super huge pop culture moment. And all of these people are seeing witches in cahoots with Satan, worshiping Satan, and Satan is their dark lord. It's done in a very patriarchal way, too. Like with Father Blackwood is the leader of the Church of Night. And the devil is this, I believe, this male figure. And it's all, this is the Luciferianism piece. It's like supposed to be about free will, but they're being tricked into giving up their free will to serve a man, to serve a master. So it's being like locked into this patriarchy. I think that's the point. I think they're actually doing that with some awareness, and that there's a lot of commentary on that. But Mary, this arc of the comic came out in 2014. So have you read the comic? Who here has read the comic? Let me, before I spout off about my opinions, let me see what you all are saying. Mary, I really want to. I'm familiar with the comic. Okay, so. Rachel, I loved it, but I was hella sad that they portrayed witches as satanic. Yeah, and there are, when I first started interacting with the witchy community online, it was very much, and in books too, it was very much like witches have nothing to do with the devil or Satan. We don't even recognize that. That's not a thing that witches do. And then a few years into it, there was a trend of people saying they were satanic witches. And I'm not saying this didn't exist before I noticed a trend of this happening. And I was like, okay, great. Now, now they're satanic witches. And you can call yourself whatever you want. I don't have a problem with that. But there is a component to it that makes it challenging for us to move about in a predominantly Christian world, I believe. Diana says the stereotype was a little bothersome. Oh, can I say your name? Krat Sakanome. I loved it. The representation of witchcraft in the show is a direct rip from the Malleus Maleficarum. Yeah, that's something I wanted to mention too. They're bringing it from the witch trials and all of that, but there was a lot of that was so sensationalized to make people afraid of witches, right? And these witches are they do a lot of scary things. I think one of my favorite characters is Prudence. I think she's badass, and I would say she's a very dark character, and that there's a secret like heart underneath that I find really appealing. And I think that actress is killing it as Prudence. She is awesome. Just to get off the topic of how do you feel about witches being portrayed as Satan worshipers? What is it about this? Like, I remember with Practical Magic, my favorite characters, I really loved Jillian, but I was obsessed with the ants and the ants' house. I loved the ants. And if you love the ants too, you should read Alice Hoffman's The Rules of Magic, which is the prequel to Practical Magic. And it's about the ants when they were young, when they were like teenage age. And it's a really totally different vibe, but a really interesting book. But I love the ants. And then my favorite character in the movie, The Craft, was like hardly in the movie at all. She was the older woman. She's not old. She's probably younger than me now. But compared to the teenager, she was the older woman that owned the witchy shop that they would visit. And I thought she was so like sexy and interesting and magical and cool. And I was like, oh, can we just like start following her around? Like, forget these teenagers. I want to like go hang out with this lady. And then now in Sabrina, I love the ants. I love Aunt Z. I love both of the ants. I think they're amazing. And I'm really into Mrs. Wardwell is like chewing up the scenery, but in a really fun way. And I love all their outfits. And I'm like, is this because I'm in my 40s that I'm like digging on these older characters, or is it just because the older characters are just super badass in this show? Because I'm feeling it. I like so many of the characters. I think Father Blackwood is pretty hot, I gotta say. And something that happens a lot intentionally in fiction, and Harry Potter's a good example of this, and in movies, is the lead character is purposefully kind of bland and not much of a character, and then they're surrounded by really interesting, like, archetypal characters. And you find this, even Sabrina's friends, I think, are more interesting than her. Susie and Roz and Nicholas, this, I think, sex pot, potential love interest character is pretty interesting. And I love Ambrose. Amber, I love the ants. I see bits of myself in both of them. Yeah, I think the ants are amazing. Aunt Hilda is so, I like that she's such a goofball, but also they've done this thing where Aunt Hilda is like outwardly kind of a goofball and like a bright light, but then she gets shit done. Like, she's very precise and serious, and you do not want to fuck with her, but you would never know it by like the happy, zippy personality she has. And then Aunt Z is the exact opposite. She's very dark and cool and sexy and looks like she will like cut you in a heartbeat, but then she has this very super soft side that she doesn't want anybody to see. And I think that's great. That's great character work. I really love that. And also, speaking of rising from the dead, there's spoilers. You get to really like, it's a very shocking moment when Aunt Z kills Aunt Hilda, and you're like, what just happened? They can't do that. They can't do that. And then you find out that they have the ability to, they have some necromancy abilities going on there that end up tying in to toward the end of the series in a really powerful, interesting way. Speaking of death and Satan and witches and pop culture. Alina, I feel like the patriarchal / free will stuff is almost a statement about Christianity or religion in general. I definitely do. It's weird. I think the Church of Night is very Christian. Like, they take like Christian terms, Catholic terms, and then they just twist them a little bit to make them dark. Like, is there like a dark baptism or something? Like, it's so Christian. It's like the Christian idea of what Satan is. And so maybe that's purposeful in a way, or maybe the creator, I don't know who originally created this, was just kind of riffing on what they knew of witches and Satan. Jamie, I have felt a pro-women/feminist agenda throughout these episodes and the dark patriarchy. Oh, yes. When you put it like that, too, I see it in a different way. When you say the dark patriarchy. Ooh, I like that. The dark patriarchy. Maybe that is their intention. They're for sure weaving in a lot of political commentary and tapping into the current conversation that we all seem to be ongoingly having. Is that a proper sentence? We seem to be having in an ongoing way. Linda Black, I really enjoyed American Horror Story's final season's portrayal of witches. So is that the last season that you just saw? Because I only watched Coven because I knew it was just all witches. I watched the whole thing and I absolutely loved it. But that was, again, like, hard for me. The blood and guts stuff is like, ugh, I don't know. I feel like The Love Witch on the Hallmark Channel, or excuse me, no, The Love Witch is insanely badass, and I highly recommend you all watch it. Speaking of commentary on the patriarchy, but the Good Witch on the Hallmark Channel it's so corny. I watched the first couple movies. I tried to watch the series, but it's just so hokey and goofy. I can't. I love the idea of it, but it's so just, it's a little too Hallmark for me. So I don't know on the spectrum where I land, because The Good Witch is too good for me. And it's not done with much intrigue and the greatest acting and stuff like that. But then you get all the way over to Coven and I'm like, I love it. But also it's like, oh, really? Do we have to do all of the burning and the guts and the entrails and all of these things? It's like a lot. It's a lot to look at on screen. So to me, like, the perfect fit would be somewhere. Can we just, like, somewhere in the middle there? Do I have to see the blood and guts? Can we just imply blood and guts maybe? Wisps and whimsy, yes. As if it's not hard enough to move through a majority Christian culture. I guess that's my point. I didn't spend a lot of time stewing on that. It didn't take away my enjoyment of the show. I absolutely love Sabrina. I'll definitely be watching the holiday episode and definitely looking forward to season 2. But also I think it's like, it is hard enough moving through a Christian culture, rejecting that culture, rejecting that religion, and trying to be taken seriously as a person. You don't want to be like the joke of the neighborhood. You also don't want to be in danger of losing your job and things like that. Like, that's real for some people. I have a friend who, her ex-husband took her to court to try to take her kids away from her because she was a practicing witch. Like, this stuff happens. And when good Christians think that people that call themselves witches are cannibals and in cahoots with Satan because they can't differentiate between this, these things that are happening on TV and the realities of it, can get a little hairy. It can get a little hairy sometimes. Rachel, that lady in The Craft had total goddess energy. Agreed. Yes. And Father Blackwood is so sexy. I'm reading these comments all out of order. Autism, love, and acceptance. Of course, I love your name. Autism, love, and acceptance. Yes, I liked the first couple of movies of The Good Witch. Yeah, I did. I enjoyed them. But then I think they just ran out of material and it just went into those Hallmark tropes and with a slight magical tinge to it. But now we're so spoiled for content. That's another thing I wanted to mention was Charmed. The reboot of Charmed. I recorded on my DVR the whole series. So new episodes kept showing up, but I couldn't make it past the first one, not because of I didn't like the witchcraft or anything, but I I love writers. I'm sorry if one of the writers is listening to me right now, but I thought the writing was horrible. They tried to shove an entire season, or at least 3 episodes, into one episode, and they did not do any character development. There is no suspense. And when you get to the end of the first season of Sabrina and she finally makes a choice, you realize like this whole first season was about this one choice that she had to make. And that's why it's good. We needed to see her character development and the development of the characters around her. And I think sometimes it's probably not even the writer's fault, because I've worked on a TV show. I know how it works. Like the studio very much tells you how it's going to be and what they want to see and like get to the point. And so the writers just often have to do what they're being told to do because they don't own the show. And there's usually like a room full of writers, you know, like 12, 15, a lot of writers. And so I don't mean to throw the writers under the bus, but the way the script ended up being, for whatever reason, it's like they have no faith in the audience. They feel like they have to like throw everything at you at once, which is totally uninteresting and unsuspenseful and not fun at all. And it doesn't create an investment in the characters and the storyline. And then you can tell it's low budget because there's some really hokey like CGI effects and stuff. And I was like, I finally just deleted it off my DVR and went back and deleted those recorded episodes because I was like, there's just too many amazing things to watch and to read that now we're so spoiled. We don't have to kind of put up with the crappy stuff. Whereas back in the day, like I would definitely, if something was witchy, I would hang with it just because it was witchy. But I still haven't seen, have any of you seen Suspiria? I think I'm saying that right. Lisa Marie Basile saw it and loved it. And I told her I would check back with her after I saw it, but I have not had a chance to go to the movies and see it, but I have every intention to see it because the trailer looks badass and Tilda Swinton is a goddess, and that is about witches and a dance company. I can't wait to see it. Have any of you seen it yet? Oh, Heather. Okay. I need to remember, Heather is Autism, Love, and Acceptance. She has 2 accounts here. Okay, Heather, I'm putting that in my brain so I can remember that you are Autism, Love, and Acceptance as well. Linda, I couldn't watch the other ones after Coven, but the final season, the witches kick butt. Yes, totally. Okay. Heather says she hasn't seen the new Charmed. You're not going to care about a character if you don't work on it. Yes. And that's too part of like, you know, we're talking about like witches doing all these bad things. Like bad things have to happen in fiction for us to care. That's like at the heart of fiction is conflict. So no matter what, that's kind of why sometimes some the Hallmark good witch thing, it's like not that compelling because the conflict is just so late and fluffy, and you're not like super invested. Like, will they survive this? You know, it's more like, will the nosy neighbor finally get what's coming to her? Whereas when it's like life and death and going to hell or going to heaven, it's just more dramatic and more exciting that way. Throw in some cannibalism, you know. I definitely get that. I love Hollywood. I love movies. And who here has seen The Love Witch also, which is very dark? The darkness did not bother me. I think The Love Witch is kind of perfect. It's very cheesy on purpose. It's extremely campy. I think visually it's gorgeous. And I got to go to the premiere with my friend Marla here in Los Angeles when it was brand new, and Ann Biller, the director, was there, and we had like a whole Q&A about it. I got to ask Ann Biller if she's a witch or if she studied witchcraft, and she did, to get ready for The Love Witch. Although there are some inaccuracies around like Wheel of the Year kind of stuff. But that movie, it's so great looking. It's so great looking. But it's very much, I think it's about codependence and patriarchy. That was the message that I got. Oh, yeah, Amber, let's go see Suspiria. I don't think I'm going to have time off till after Christmas. maybe for a movie adventure. So hopefully it's still in the theaters. What a weird movie to see during the holidays. But cool. I live in Arcata, California, where The Love Witch was filmed. How cool! She had that awesome Victorian house. Yes, the old Victorian house is so epic. It is. I loved her like blue eyeshadow too. I've tried to rock that. I did on Halloween too, but it's a bit much. You have to have a lot of confidence to. Hi, Shadow Sun, just tuning in. Well, I think we maybe will go for like 15 minutes here. I don't know, but oh God, I just saw a note that I made too that has nothing to do with this, but it's interesting to me. Sierra said a few episodes back here that Four Sigma, that company that makes the mushroom coffee, that they're selling it now at Sephora. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I think I burned myself out too, saying all the things I wanted to say. Speaking of Charmed, shoving everything up in the front, but I started worrying that I had spent too much time rambling on about the possum, that I just started like rolling through all the high points of what I wanted to say about witches in pop culture. Who was your first witch? Who was your first witch in pop culture? Mine was Angela Lansbury in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I believe, and I loved her, which is probably very fitting for my personality. And she's very magical. It's a Disney movie. I think this must have been pretty on the edge when it came out. I think it came out before I was born, but I saw it when I was a little kid. I'm sure it came out. It must have come out like a decade maybe before I was born. I don't know. I don't know when Bedknobs and Broomsticks came out, but I loved it. And then another favorite movie of mine is Bell Book and Candle with Kim Novak. It's got a really weird vibe that I like. I like to watch it on Halloween and Christmas both. And Samantha Stevens was your favorite or your first witch. Samantha from Bewitched. My mom was obsessed when I was little. Samantha, I think I was aware of Bewitched, but it wasn't, my mom would never watch something like that. So I knew it was around, but it wasn't something we watched. Teen Witch. Oh my gosh, Mary. I remember that movie. It was a very cheesy and probably loved anyway. All the witches in the original Charmed. Ursula from The Little Mermaid. I love that. She had swagger. Loved her. That was her Poor Unfortunate Souls. That was my audition song for years when I was auditioning for musicals, even all the way back when I was still a teenager living in Bakersfield. I used to audition with that song, and I sang it here once. I can't remember where that video is, but I sang it here because it's so much fun. I love her song, but she was a scary witch. She wasn't messing around. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Yeah, it came out in the 60s. I saw it in the 70s. I actually talk about that. I will give this away to one of you. I talk about it I have a thing, Power Tool number 1, creating thought forms that spring to life. So if anybody wants Power Tool number 1, creating thought forms that spring to life, I have a trivia question for you. And the first person to answer it, I will email this to you. If you already have it, you can gift it to somebody else, or you can just say, give it to the second person to answer here. Speaking of mushrooms, okay, what was the name of the mushroom in my song? I wrote a funny song about eating a mushroom on my way to school one day. What was the name of that mushroom? That mushroom had a name. If you can tell me, I will gift you Creating Thought Forms That Spring to Life. It's a little tutorial on how to create and work with a thought form. And Bedknobs and Broomsticks is mentioned in that. Jesus, you said it. Okay. Jesus was a mushroom and I ate him on my way to school one day. I don't know how to say your name. Ramzia, Jesus. Yes. Can you email me at joannadevoe@gmail.com and I will hit you back with that. It's in PDF form and then there's a video. And I will gift that to you. And then if you don't want it for yourself, if you already have it, just give me the email of a friend that you want to gift it to and I will give it to them. The Melissa, I said it first. Ha ha ha. I have Ramzia. I think she beat you by like a hair. Like a hair. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, we'll do first and second place since you guys are neck and neck. Go ahead and email me. Am I saying your name right? The Melissa? Are you saying the Melissa or is it Melissa? Email me. She wrote not to be a douche. I will give away 2 creating thought forms that spring to life. So the cool thing about Angela Lansbury in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks is she comes off as very prickly in the beginning, but again, she's one of these people that ends up having a heart of gold. And I think she was very empowering for a first witch. But what's so fun about her is she's trying to learn witchcraft from a correspondence course, and it's during the war. And there's a lot of people that believe this was based on a true story about some very famous witches, Wiccans, who actually performed magic to help bring down Hitler and the Nazis. And that's like woven throughout the story in a very subtle way that probably most people never picked up on because it's Disney. But because it's during the war and there's a lot of chaos, her correspondence stops like right before she needs this very important spell. So she has to go off in search of the guy that created this correspondence course. And she finds out that he was a complete fraud. And that he just was like making up these random spells that don't actually work. But they've been working for her so well that she's like flying on a broom and performing all this amazing magic. And I just love it because I have chills thinking about it. I love it because it says so much about the power of belief. It's not really, the power isn't in the spell. The power isn't in the tool. The power is in you and your ability to believe. And then this goes back to what I was saying last night. I posted on Patreon a challenge we're working with suspension of disbelief. And I was talking about how it's just so much easier when you're learning a brand new thing that you've never heard of and you're excited about it. Magic seems to come so much easier because you have that like beginner's mind and you want it to work and you haven't like weighed the pros and cons and talked yourself out of it so much. And so magic tends to work better that way when you're like a believer. It's harder for those of us who are really analytical and get way up in our heads. And now I'm like ranting off on something that has nothing to do with pop culture, but I love the message of that in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. And that would be an awesome movie to rent at Christmas time. By the way, during the holidays, if you have kids that have never seen that movie, or if you just feel like having like a vintage Disney moment on the couch with some popcorn, some tea, maybe a glass of wine, highly recommend Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Heather, now I have to follow you on Patreon. Please do. I would love it. I would love it. So the Wizard of Oz too. Yeah, I guess that was one of my first witches. I didn't even think about that, but that's an interesting depiction of witches too. Is like a good witch and a bad witch. One of my favorite memes is Glinda asking Dorothy, how does that go? Now I'm totally going to mess the meme up. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? And then later Glinda remembers, okay, I'm screwing this up. Dorothy asks Glinda if she's a good witch or a bad witch. And then later it's explained that witches are ugly. And so, can I stop this? Don't look at me. I'm screwing up the meme. I'm going to have to find the meme and post it on social media. Oh, the perils of life, anything. I just totally bit the dust on that one. Trying to tell a joke live. Joanna, don't do it. Don't do it. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I'm going to wrap this up. This is turning into a rambling, jumbly mess. This was very fun. I don't know how deep we got into like, too late, Joe, you committed. I did put that I lost my way. I lost my way. We're going to be back here tomorrow talking about not being apologetic. We're going to talk about being unapologetic. We're going to get into some major queen things. It is my intention to speak about this in a way that both men and women can get, but we are going full on queen tomorrow. Do not miss tomorrow. I will be back here at 8:30, super fired up to talk about how we can go into 2019 feeling insanely, incredibly empowered. And if you have not signed up for the free video series, it's 3 videos that are delivered to your inbox, and it'll give you like a nice like jump start on working with the queen archetype and starting to think of yourself as the queen of your own life. And then tomorrow specifically, we are going to talk about being unapologetic. Stop apologizing for taking up space. All right. Until we meet again, have an awesome Monday. Much love to you. Peace.